Hey there, paper geeks and glitter nerds, it's Senna, the Crazy Geek Crafter. It's once again time to celebrate Father's Day. Last year I was well prepared with the Rubber Dub Dub set from Lawn Fawn, but this year I was less prepared, so I went to Etsy and found this pattern paper, and it also had clip art. It's from a shop called Huckleberry Hearts. For once it's a shop I can actually pronounce the name of. I chose coffee since both my father, my boyfriend's father, and my grandfather loves coffee, and this one had the option to have the coffee pot actually in the clip arts and also in some of the pattern paper, and I really like that. I'm trying out the Gumiapan white cardstock for the printer. I just have to cut it down to A4 size, otherwise the printer won't be able to use it. And I'm going to do a review pretty soon about which papers I would prefer to use in the printer I have for your convenience. Lately I have been diving into digital paper packs a lot. They're easy to use and they're here when I buy them and not in a few weeks. When I work with pattern paper I like to use a sketch. This one is from Newton's Nook Designs. And when I have digital papers I have the ability to make a mock-up on the computer, so I can resize the pattern paper to fit with the layout I want. For instance, here the background with all the words, it was way too big for what I wanted, so I sized it down and then made sure that it continued all over the A4 page that I was going to print, and that made sure that I had exactly what I wanted when I printed it out. The white piece behind the coffee pot here I designed myself. It says Father's Day Coffee Day, and it just repeats. I didn't want a big sentiment on the card, but I did want it to emphasize that this was a Father's Day card, so that's why I hid the sentiment in plain sight, so to speak, and I colored the text brown with a matching color to the pattern paper. Making this mock-up also meant that I knew exactly what size I needed the coffee cup and the pot to be, and I could write on the cup Father's cup or Grandfather's cup respectively, and I knew that when I printed it it would be the perfect size for my project. Now that this is all done, I can print the papers. They're not all squarely on the page. I had just a few troubles with the printer, but we got there in the end. And here you see the continuous background I made. I'm making some notes on sizes and trying to figure out how big I can make the back panel and still have enough paper for all 3 cards. I was also lucky enough to be able to print only 3 pages of pattern paper. The big one here with the text, the brown one, it could maybe have been smaller if I had been more clever with my cutting, but I didn't trust myself that much with it. But then I could make the sentiment white text piece. I could make that half a page, and I knew it would be enough for what I needed it for, and the other half could be used for the focal points. I did make a slight error cutting the last panel. It always happens to me. I get confused sometimes, but I make it work. That just means that the back panel and the other panels in general are a bit small on one of the cards, but doesn't make the big difference I was afraid it would. I have been thinking maybe if I find a Nuvo drop or some ribbon or something, some kind of embellishment in this theme, I would do a 10 cards 1 kit video. Since this is kind of like a kit, I can print out the clip art, I can even make cut files so I don't have to cut them by hand, and make a lot of, for instance, birthday cards, which you always need, I guess. Maybe not so much the last year, but it'll come back, I'm sure of it. There's not much technique to this card, in my opinion. Had I made one of these one-sheet wonders, maybe I would call it a technique, but this is mostly just boxes of pattern paper mixed together. Since this video is coming out on the actual day of Father's Day, I guess it's kind of a good thing, since you can go buy these papers, print them, and make this card in quite a hurry if you've forgotten all about your dad. And of course, if you don't need to send it far away. If you can go give him the card, then it won't be a problem. I think I'll try to shut up now and return later when there's actually something to comment on. So far my experience with the printing paper and glossy accents haven't been bad, but I did want to make sure I didn't ruin all 3 cards if glossy accents did not like this paper and the ink on it. That's why I made one entire card, and then I went to bed and took a look at it in the morning before I made the other 2. I had no troubles with the glossy accents, but I do have some other problems later on with some other liquid medium that I'll show you. And I'm going to test that out when I... here you see, it actually brings out the blue color very nicely when you use the glossy accents. So I dared to use the glossy accents on the other 2 cards, and then I just needed some embellishment when I'm done popping all the bubbles. I couldn't justify buying a whole pack of coffee beans just to glue them on this, glue 3 on each of these cards, so I went with these pearls, but I do think real beans would have been nice. Though I don't know if they would crush in the mail. Anyone got any intel on that one? Would be greatly appreciated. I chose this multimedia mat from Ranger to glue the pearls on, and I've been struggling with it for a while. I think it's getting old. And this is actually going to kind of ruin the card. I have convinced myself that the card is not ruined, but to the perfectionist in me, it still is not as it should be. And I'll show you a close-up picture when this is all dried, what happened to the paper, where you can see the glue. And I picked this glue because it dries matte, and therefore it shouldn't be seen on the card. You see here, it bled the paper quite a lot on some of them, depending on the amount of glue, of course. But here's the final picture, and all in all, it is quite pretty. I will be sending these cards even though there's a flaw on them. It doesn't matter that much. It does kind of look like coffee dripped on them. I do encourage you to comment on this video, to like it, subscribe, and ring the bell if you're afraid to miss the next video. Until next time, I hope you'll be having a good day, evening, or night.